Welcome to Shipwreck Valley. Today we're on the east end of Long Island. We're going to be diving off of Culloden Point in Montauk. We're going to be exploring the wreck of an English frigate sunk in 1781 named the HMS Culloden. I'm going to be diving with Jeannie and Ed Tiedemann from the Tiedemann's Diving Center in Levittown and my old friend Mike McMeekin. We're also going to be experimenting with a wireless underwater communication system that's put out by Divecom. So stay with us.
I'm on a Tuesday morning and is looking forward to diving the historic site of the HMS Culloden wreck. The dive site is located down a dirt road just west of Shore Road and the Montauk jetties. We planned this dive at high slack in order to ensure the clearest possible visibility. And by the looks of it, our planning has paid off. The water is crystal clear. Another recommendation for planning a dive here, besides diving at high slack, is to watch the wind and only dive this wreck when it's blowing out of the south. This way, the site is sheltered from the wind by Long Island. I noticed there's a private dive boat very close to the wreck site, and after contacting the vessel with a handheld radio, I find out that he's actually looking for the Culloden wreck, but does not have accurate Loran numbers.
You guys in the water yet? Yeah, we're going to actually be filming a episode of the Shipwreck Valley series. We'll be in the water in about 10-15 minutes to do some filming. You should be just about on it. Let me get out a compass and I'll direct you.
With the use of a handheld dive compass, I'm able to triangulate the wreck's position for him and guide his vessel westward until he's directly over the wreck site. The Culloden wreck sits only a few hundred feet offshore of Culloden Point, so she's easily accessible to beach divers. The only downside to the site is the fact that divers must climb down a 20-foot sand bluff from the dirt road to the beach. This hike is bad enough on cool days, but when you add the blistering heat of a hot summer day and the weight of full scuba gear, the walk can become downright treacherous. I recommend making a few trips to transport equipment down to the beach, rather than attempting to make the walk while fully suited. You can also make use of the large rocks on the beach by placing dive gear on them. In doing so, sand is kept out of the regulators and camera equipment. Ed Tiedemann and I will be utilizing a sophisticated wireless underwater communication system while we explore the HMS Culloden wreck. Since it's recommended to try out new equipment in a controlled environment, let's now go back to the pool where we first tested the Divecom system. Today we're here at Farmingdale College in the pool with Ed Tiedemann from Tiedemann's Diving Center in Levittown. We're going to be experimenting with a new piece of diving equipment. It's called the Divecom Wireless Underwater Communication System. The system is kind of unique. It can work two ways. You either have a push-to-talk, where you push the button, then you can talk to your dive buddy on the surface, or you can actually put it into Vox mode, or voice-activated transmission mode. Pull the button up, and every time you talk, your voice is automatically transmitted through the water to your dive buddy or to the surface. You're going to play around the pool, learn how the equipment works, and then later on we'll be going in the open water with the system.
The important thing is the position of the unit on your face. You want to make sure that you have this over your mouth, the chin in the proper place, and of course you want the earphones in the proper position. The earphones should be placed right about here. It uses bone conduction for you to hear what's going on.
The other unique aspect about the Divecom wireless underwater communication system is that they were able to give me a receiver for the camera. Through this transducer, the audio is actually picked up through the water and put in through a port in the amphibical housing directly into the audio in on the camera. So it'll be interesting to see what kind of results we get here today.
The system we'll be using is Divecom's Sport model. The mouthpiece attaches to any standard second stage and is fairly easy to put on and surprisingly comfortable once in place. Now it's time to jump in the water and test the system out for sound quality and comfort.
I'm going to switch out to the low end. Let's see how far we can hear each other. Affirmative. Ed, hello? Can you hear me? Loud and clear. Very nice. This is amazing. If you look at the side of the pool, you can see how far apart we are. It's not far to see. I'm at about the 10-foot mark. You look at about the 65-foot mark. So we're about 55 feet apart right now. I'm going to move to the full 75 feet. I'm going to move to the diagonal corner. Hello, Ed? Reading you loud and clear. At the full 75 feet away, and I can still read you loud and clear. This is absolutely amazing. These are a lot more sophisticated than the old ones that we used to use. The old ones were based on amplitude modulation. This is based on sideband. Much more sufficient, much more efficient, and much more effective.
After Ed and I finished pool testing the system, it seemed that everyone wanted to try out the units. Videographer Steve Belinda descended first, followed by Jeannie Tiedemann, who both found the units easy to use and comfortable to wear. We all had a lot of fun in the pool, but before any judgment could be made, the real test would have to be done in the open water.
I'm going, Don, it's what Charlie will do right now.
Of the HMS Culloden. The Culloden was a 170-foot by 47-foot, 74-gun English frigate. The Culloden was armed with 28 32-pounders, 28 18-pounders, and 18 9-pound cannon. On January 22, 1781, under the command of Captain Balfour, the Culloden ran aground in a fierce storm. After salvaging was complete, the Culloden was deliberately set afire by the English and burned to the waterline, so the vessel would be of no use to the American Revolution. Today, this once proud ship of the line rests in about 20 feet of water just off Culloden Point. The wreckage lies on a compass course of 330 degrees from the big rock on the beach. The wreck lies only about 150 feet offshore, so if you get deeper than about 25 feet, you have definitely passed her.
The HMS Culloden is one of the only shipwrecks off Long Island, New York, that's on the National Register of Historic Shipwrecks. That means that the taking of artifacts is strictly prohibited. Divers should take nothing but photographs and leave nothing but bubbles when exploring this fascinating shipwreck.
Today I'll be using a 94 cubic foot scuba tank, an Amphibico video housing, and a Bouchot dive computer. Once in the water, we still have to do a final equipment check and have our camera gear carried out to us. Mike and I also take the time to plan in detail which areas of the wreck we want to concentrate on filming. Before long, it's time for each of us to submerge and start our swim to the Culloden wreck. While Ed uses a compass to navigate, Jeannie tows a flag behind her, attached to a line spool. This dive flag will mark our position to boats that frequent the area. The bottom composition close to shore is comprised of sand and rock. On our way out, we swim over the remains of a motorcycle. One can only speculate as to how it got here. The Culloden, although small and low-lying, is not difficult to locate. As mentioned earlier, we will navigate out on a 330-degree compass course from the largest rock on the beach until the bottom composition changes from large rocks to a sandy bottom. Visibility in this area is usually excellent, and aside from having an occasional mild current, this is a good site for beginners as well as novice wreck divers. Not having visited this site in quite a while, we are amazed at the abundance of marine life now thriving on and around the rocky bottom. Blue claw crabs are in season and are now hiding under almost every rock we swim over.
We can find the wreck once we get into the sand. Please repeat. Please repeat the listing. Yeah, we can find the wreck once we get into the sand. After a couple seconds.
It only takes a few minutes to make the swim offshore. When we finally swim over the last large rocks and reach the clean sand bottom, we know we are at the correct distance offshore. The depth here is just less than 20 feet. The wreck can now be located by swimming west along this sand line and carefully looking for traces of her wooden remains. The main wreckage will be just offshore of these beams and only about 20 feet north of the large rocks.
And I got the wreckage here. Tell Jeannie to tie off the flag.
Once the wreck is located, divers will note that not too much wreckage remains exposed above the sand. This is definitely not your classic storybook shipwreck that sits completely intact on the ocean floor. A testament to the constant pounding of winter storms are the wreck's scattered low-lying remains, which have been buried beneath the ever-changing sand bottom. Jeannie takes a moment to tie off the dive flag to a piece of wreckage. We will return later after exploring the wreck to retrieve the flag before heading back to shore. Off in the sand, we spot a fiddler crab, who after seeing us quickly crawls away. Jeannie manages to catch a small stone crab on the wreck and carefully holds it for the camera before letting it go. Mike utilizes a tether line reel and swims off to search for the Culloden's cannons, which should be located just north of her main wreckage. Before long, he finds what looks like a cannon, but will have to dig away a little sand to be certain.
Come on over, Ed. We're going to dig this out and see if it's a cannon. Okay. We need to dig right here. Okay. Yeah, this is the front end of the cannon. There should be 3 other cannons in line with this, about 4 feet away, 4 to 5 feet away. So we can swim that way to find something. How long would the cannon have been? Please repeat, please repeat. Wow, that's big. It's supposed to be 10 feet long and 10,000 pounds. 10,000 pounds. And the ship carried how many? 74. Very pretty easily. Let's go check out the rest of the wreck. Affirmative, we'll follow you? Yeah, the main wreckage is just inshore. Okay, you need to wait. Okay.
Most of this wreck consists of low-lying wood beams and planking. Since the vessel was burned to the waterline, we can still find some wood that looks charred. A small lobster has made its home in a hole under the wreck's scattered remains. About 10 feet from the nearest visible wood plank are 4 more of the Culloden steel cannons. The cannons all face toward shore and are almost always completely covered with sand. Many divers have passed right over these seemingly camouflaged cannons, thinking they were only rocks. Watch as we dig out what looks like a rock to reveal the butt end of a 10-foot-long cannon. Most of the Culloden's cannons were salvaged by the English shortly after she ran aground. The cannons remaining on the wreck were the obsolete 32-pounders, which were not worth salvaging at the time, and even these were spiked just in case they were ever recovered by the Americans. The cannon we saw earlier is located just inshore and to the west of this group. Here a boxfish, as they are commonly called, hides amongst the Culloden's wreckage. Out in the sand, a large spider crab hides by burying itself in the sand. These crabs look almost prehistoric and are a common species found on these shallow water dives. Although only small portions of the Culloden protrude above the sand, the wreck is actually quite large. Most of the wreck has become buried and rests anywhere from a few inches to several feet below the sand level.
How much air do you have left? 1 minute. I'm down to 1,000 psi. Okay, Genie's at 35. Gene and I have plenty. We'll stay for another 2 minutes. Let's see whatever more wreckage is over this way.
The communication units are working great. Ed and I can easily and understandably talk to one another, even when out of each other's sight. Under a small piece of wreckage, I spot a tiny lobster and chase him out for the camera. This wreck is home to quite a few small lobsters, but most of the larger bugs seem to inhabit the rocks inshore from the wreck. Jeannie spots another crustacean. This one is a small spider crab. By looking at my Bouchot dive computer, I find we've already spent 45 minutes in the water, with a maximum depth of 18 feet and a present depth of 16 feet. These bowl-like cavities are the impressions from where 32-pound cannonballs had once been. Due to the strong north winds, the Culloden's ribs have uncovered recently, revealing more wood than usual. Other ribs have been ripped out of the sand completely and are now just waiting for the next storm to wash them away.